Hello, we are Daniel González Pacheco, Stefano Munari, Juan Pablo Uzcategui, Juan Camilo Niño, and Alejandro Restrepo, and this is a podcast about the experiment done the last Friday. For the experiment, we had to take two samples of water, each one taken of a pond, and the objective of the experiment was to analyze the microorganisms we found in the pond. So we took a couple of drops of each and we put it in the pads so that we could see the data in the microscope. Then we started looking at the samples in the microscope. We started with the least power to the high power. There was one of the samples that didn't give us so many organisms, so we only used one. First, we started with the low power scope. Here we saw a lot of organisms, they were all moving, but we couldn't tell what they were. Then we continued with the medium power scope. In this scope we could see a very large moving organism and everything was moving, but we were not able to identify them either. Finally, in the last scope, in the high power scope, we could identify many species and we could, well, have a closer look of each one of them. In the microscope we were able to see species like this rotifera, some algae, many kinds of bacteria, and some protozoa, that is a cell with a flagellum to swim. One of the species we found the most peculiar was the rotifera, especially in the way it mobilizes. It has this organ in his head that is called the corona. This is a rotation organ. Here is where the rotifera gets its name. And the function of this organ is, while rotating, to locomote the organism so that it can move, but also to attract food into its mouth. But after all, what is the function of all these organisms that can be found in all the ponds and in every single drop of water in the earth? Well, according to David Moriarty, the role these little organisms have in their environment is very important. First, they help the nutrient cycling, and therefore they are main variable in the environment's productivity. They also improve the water quality, and therefore they prevent disease for the other organisms that live in it and drink of it, and it reduces the effect of the effluent, that is the contamination this ecosystem gets. We were able to recognize two kinds of primary producers. The first one was the algae. The algae, as every single plant on Earth, has the ability of photosynthesis, and therefore it has chloroplasts which allow it to take the sunlight and process it into food. The other primary producer was the bacteria, but the special kind of bacteria, that is the photosynthetic bacteria, that just as the algae has the ability to make photosynthesis. These are primary producers because they only need abiotic factors to feed on themselves, so they are never consumers of any other organism. After analyzing all the species that we saw in the experiment, all the organisms, we came out with this food chain. Well, as every single food chain in the world, it starts with the primary producers, which are the trophagus bacteria. There are the bacteria that can feed on minerals and elements instead of other organisms, and the two photosynthetic organisms that we find, that were the algae and the phytoplankton. Then come the primary consumers. These are the rotifera and the protozoa. Well, they both eat each one of the three primary producers. They all eat bacteria, the algae, and the phytoplankton. But protozoa can eat other protozoa, and rotifera can eat the protozoa easily. Well, the next step is the zooplankton. That is the secondary consumer. The zooplankton can eat every single other organism that we found previously. It can eat the algae, the bacteria, the phytoplankton, the rotifera, and the protozoa. We were not able to see it in our experiment, but we know it can be found in this ecosystem. Well then, this is another organism that we didn't see. Is the small fish, which eat the zooplankton. This is the tertiary consumer, and finally the fourth consumer. There are the birds and other predators that can eat the fish. Finally, all these organisms get decomposed and, well, turned into other minerals with the decomposing bacteria.